Good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. on Monday, January the 27th, 2020. I now call the Winton Woods City School Board of Education meeting to order. Please turn your cell phones to silence and rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Birdie?
Present.
Dr. Cupoletti?
Here.
Mr. McGowans?
Present.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present. Our first item on the agenda this evening is district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. Superintendent Smith, you have the floor, and just give me a second to get to the podium.
Oh, and don't
Right.
trip.
I won't.
You may want to go that way.
Okay, this is a timed event, but take your time.
Well, go ahead and vent.
No, come on. We have time. As long as we finish the meeting by 10:30, we're good.
We'll be fine.
That's a little optimistic.
All right.
Okay, our first recipient, District Honors Recognitions Gifts, Destiny Rose Witt. Destiny is receiving the Kiwanis Characters Key Award, and this is what the Assistant Principal, Ms. Kendra Yule, says about Destiny. Destiny Rose Witt is a 6th grade student in Ms. Corneliuson's class at Winton Woods Intermediate. She exhibits the character trait of caring in many ways within the classroom. She has supported a student in the class who has needed a friend. Destiny has stepped up and has joined the student at lunch in partner work in the classroom and has spoken to peers about the importance of being respectful to all students. In addition, Destiny makes sure that all peers are included in class activities. She has even recently invited Ms. Cornelison to her family Thanksgiving gathering. Wow. We praise Destiny for being a constant example of what a caring student looks like at Winton Woods Intermediate. Destiny, I'm going to give you my address so the next Thanksgiving you can invite me. So this is all said by Ms. Kendra Yule. So here's our Kiwanis Characters Key for Caring, Destiny Rose Witt.
Can our family come up with her to get a shot?
Yes. Come on.
Come on, everybody. So turn around this way toward Mrs. Drew. She's taking a shot there.
One family can fill up a whole row.
Oh, wow.
No, you see, I mean, must be careful. Maybe.
I need to find a window, okay?
Awesome. The next Kiwanis Characters Key Award is for Trustworthiness. Ashley? Ashleigh? Tell me which way.
Ashleigh.
Okay, thank you. Ashleigh Duarte for the character trait of trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is one of those character traits that demonstrates itself continuously in the little things and the big things. Ashleigh shows up every day to school with a positive attitude. She is a dependable student who could be counted upon to be seen at the right place at the right time. She's part of a class, house, or club and fulfill the missions to re-enter the space respectfully. She is known to be helpful to teachers and students alike. She sees a problem. She has the confidence to address it. Ashleigh doesn't set herself above others. She is conscious of who she is, her actions, the right thing to do, her voice, and its power. She treats all people like they have something to value or offer. With a maturity beyond her chronological age, she is not only worthy of being trusted, she extends trust to those around her. This trust adds value to every classroom in which she participates. You suspect with Ashleigh that her groundedness has been generated by her solid family foundation. Her ability to trust and be trusted is part of her core being. It is clearly demonstrated that she has been raised correctly since her birth. We are honored to recommend her present and present her with the award for trustworthiness, and this comes from her middle school principal, Mr. Douglas Sanker. The option is yours. Do you want to say a few words? Okay.
I think she said no.
That's okay, you can stand there. We'll get on either side.
Let's get Principal Sanker in there too, please. Excellent. The next award is for the Student of the Month for December. And I'd like to recognize Miss Rolanda Champion. Is she here today? Beautiful smile, amazing. All right, Rolanda Champion transferred to Winton Woods this year and has blossomed in a few short months. Rolanda is naturally quiet, speaks softly, and because of her stature is often overlooked. What she has in abundance is infectious, upbeat personality that has allowed her to overcome significant hurdles in her life. She was frightened and a bit overwhelmed entering Winton Woods this year, but she has slowly begun to come out of her shell. Maybe it is more accurate to say that she has burst her shell and shattered it into pieces. There's no better example of this than her performance in Almost Maine, our fall theater production. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that she had tried out for the production, and even more surprised when the production opened and there she was on center stage. She was the first person on the stage in the production, and her tiny voice suddenly boomed out and captivated the audience for her opening words. Her opening words were, "That superintendent is amazing." No, it doesn't say that.
No.
Academically, that was pretty good, Mr. Burton.
Yeah.
Academically, Rolanda has had struggles in her past, but she has slowly begun to excel and proudly will tell you that she has passed all of her classes this semester. Oh, bravo for that. That is a first in a long time, and it is a testament to this young lady's determination and grit. Rolanda, I want to congratulate you on your most recent success and want to recognize you as a Winton Woods High School Student of the Month, Mr. John Beischel. Bravo.
Let's bring your
Family picture time. So we move on to the Kiwanis Student of the Month Award, and this is for the month of January, Batisha. And this full page is written by her counselor, Ms. Kim Goins. It was a great pleasure that I nominate Batisha as Kiwanis Student of the Month. I've known Batisha for 3 years. She is currently a junior at Winton Woods High School. She has been part of the Academy of Global Studies program since she began high school. She participates in honors classes in the AGS program. Her work ethic is commendable. Her cheerful smile is contagious. She literally lights up a room, especially when she becomes excited about a really good idea she or others may have. She always puts forth her best effort in all that she does. I really got to know Batisha when she joined HPAC, an after-school program that I sponsored, Health Professions Affinity Community. It's an after-school program that's led by students from the UC Nursing School. They discuss and plan events that result in many ways to benefit. What's amazing about this program, I think that Ms. Ruggles, your daughter is actually one of the sponsors of the program, an RN from UC.
Yes.
Thank her for all of her service. Under Patisha's leadership, the members of the group have successfully collected canned good foods from the Fairfield Food Pantry. They've also participated in a clean water event. This year, still under Patisha's leadership, the group will be holding teen pregnancy forums, making sure teen moms have access to the right resources to help them have successful pregnancies. Patisha's strong work ethic has enabled her to become a member of the National Honor Society and the Spanish National Honor Society. She is also a member of the yearbook club, where she can be seen taking pictures to put in the school's yearbook for all to enjoy. Patisha worked with the prom photographer, high school teacher Ciro Casanova to ensure every student had a great prom photograph. Patisha loves to help people. In addition to participating in HPAC, she was also selected as student of the Academy of Global Studies to help primary school students enjoy science experiments presented by COSI. Patisha demonstrates her such enthusiasm for learning and helping others. You see that when she is in class working with her group mates and working in the organizations mentioned earlier. It is with great pleasure to see her receive the Student of the Month Award. Sincerely, Kim Goins, School Counselor. Excellent.
Invite your family up.
Oh, yeah. She knows to go.
She sure did.
Thank you.
You know, it feels like yesterday when my high school counselor wrote about me. It wasn't quite the same experience, but it was all right. All right, Emmy. Emmy, we missed you a few times. We finally got you. So, Emmy, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about your experience and why you were up there, because we've been waiting you for 3 months.
I'll support you. Come on. We can do it together.
All right, there's the mic.
There's the mic. So just tell us why you're here. Why'd you get nominated?
I got Student Athlete of the Month,
Absolutely.
What sport you make?
soccer.
Student Athlete of the Month for soccer. All right. And we have been waiting for you. We would have waited several years to get you up here. And we are very, very excited that you had the opportunity to come out tonight with your family. So who brought you here tonight?
My mom.
Mom, come on up for the
Is there a
photograph.
representative from Skyline here?
All right, the next award is the Regional Scholastic Art Awards. Is the art teacher? Is Carol Becky Youngs, is she here tonight?
Let's see.
Okay. All right, Winton Woods High School, Miss Carol Becky Young's art teacher, congratulations to the following students who won awards for their creative work at the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards competition, which is presented by the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers. The organization's mission is to identify students with exceptional artistic and literary talent. The regional competition took place at the Art Academy of Cincinnati, where teachers entered the work of their artists and writers. The entries were judged in late December, and the winners were announced on January 10th. The show will be open from February 10th to the 21st at the Art Academy of Cincinnati. The ceremony will take place at the School for Creative and Performing Arts on February 21st. So, Alejandra Hernandez, Silver Award for Cracked Life. You here tonight?
Congratulations.
Family time?
1 second.
Who came with you tonight?
Family,
My parents.
come on up, let's get a photo.
Now, for the parents who are, anytime the parents are hesitant to come up, I will take your place. I will take a picture.
You want your parents, really? Right there beside her. So just-
Silver Award.
You want to tell us something about your picture? You want to tell us something about your picture?
Sure. Well, my picture was inspired by my godfather, who was a mariachi, and he has gone through a lot of hardships in his career, so that's why I call it Crack Life. And it's, well, practically his life.
Fantastic. Thank you. The next student, I just think she's absolutely amazing, Riley Launchard. And she just gave me some great information that she's been accepted to Capital University on a presidential scholarship. So that's absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
So she was selected for honorable mention for Mollifying Michelle, honorable mention for Tiger in the Woods, honorable mention for My Rose, and come on up.
Congratulations.
Family time? Way to go, Mr. Merrill. You'll do it. I won't hesitate. Don't tempt him. He'll do it.
All right, you want to tell us a little bit about your pictures? Tell us a little bit about your art.
Tiger in the Woods was a Sharpie piece, and then Mollifying Michelle. It's a surrealist portrait of my friend Michelle. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Riley, I'm looking in my notes. I think you've been part of this board meeting about 24 times, so keep up the great work.
Yes, absolutely.
The next award is the Community Spirit Award, and each month we have a community spirit person who's shown great spirit and great enthusiasm in the community. This time we're going to do something a little different. The district will recognize all past recipients at the Community Spirit Award on January 30th at 6 o'clock in the high school cafeteria. So we're going to bring that whole group together and recognize them and thank them for all their contributions to the district. So stay tuned for that. We'll also have some great pictures by our photographer, Ms. Drew Jackson, to show off later on. Correct, Drew? Okay. The next one is absolutely amazing. This is a gift from the Green Hills Forest Park Kiwanis Club. And of course, people know that the varsity ensemble will be traveling to Carnegie Hall, which is very, very expensive. And what was so amazing, the last few dollars that were needed in order to make this trip a success came from the Kiwanis Club, but it wasn't a small amount. It was a total of $8,000. So, thank you, Kiwanis Club. Ms. Miller, way to go. Your smile just encouraged people to start giving more money.
Yes.
And then the final award goes to...
We don't have anybody to take a picture with this,
What is that?
the Kiwanis Club. For
I
Green Hills
was
Forest
waiting
Park.
for it. There is a Kiwanis
Yeah,
member
right,
here.
yes,
sir.
please. That's what I thought. I was like, why aren't you coming back up here with me?
I know people might say, well, where is the $8,000? Well, the money was presented at a special performance at the village, at the Green. Where was it? Where was it held?
At Malloy's.
Malloy's, yes.
At Christmas
and
party.
the Christmas party featured the varsity ensemble, and they did an amazing job and sung themselves right to $8,000.
Right. We love that.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Would you like to
anybody
share
here
anything
from
with us?
varsity ensemble?
Yes, we do have some.
Oh, yes,
Well-
please, come on.
Just wanted to say how much we appreciate the talent and the energy that goes into being a member of the Winton Woods Varsity Ensemble. We know it's not an easy job to squeeze in all of those commitments and still get your homework done. We have for several years invited the ensemble to provide our entertainment at the Kiwanis Christmas party, and even more so to fit us in, that they have been able to make time to get everything done that they've needed to get done. So we were really, really proud that we could come up with a substantial donation toward this trip. We know it's going to be wonderful, and we're really looking forward to hearing all about it.
You want to come and get in too? Please.
Excellent. I'm sure everyone knows that, and it's been on your calendar for months, that this is National School Board Recognition Month. And the student, staff, and communities of Winton Woods City Schools join the Ohio School Board Association to honor the exemplary leadership, service, and endless hours of dedication given by elected board members on behalf of our school district and its communities. We thank our board members, President Dr. Viola Johnson, Vice President Ms. Katrina Ruglis, board members Mr. Jeff Birdie, Dr. Cupoletti, and Mr. Gino McCowans is saying, wow, I get recognized and this is my first board meeting, so you stepped in at the right time, sir. Winton Woods High School Student Council President Naomi Hall will present certificates of appreciation on behalf of the OSBA to our board members. I'm sorry. I was just so excited to say your name that I messed it up.
I know, right?
Okay.
Okay. Our first award or certificate goes to Miss Dr. Viola E. Johnson.
There you go.
Our next certificate is Catherine Ruglis.
Katrina.
Katrina, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wait, hand it with my left. Yep, there we go. So I'm gonna hand it with my left. And shake
See,
it right.
Naomi, you called me out, and you see how that works
Listen,
out.
listen, man, listen. The next certificate of appreciation is Mr. Jeffrey Birdie. Oh, dang, I'm sorry. Our next certificate is Dr. John Cupoletti. He also came to our student council meeting today, so thank you for that too. And I'm gonna shake.
You come and see us every month.
I got you, I got you. And last but certainly not least is Gino McGowan.
She messed up my name too.
Okay, listen. I was trying. You heard me trying. McGowan, okay.
So take one by yourself and then then we'll take one with the student council president. Can we take one all together with the student council president?
I'm gonna just stand right here.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, I'm told this, can you get us all in like this? Okay, because I don't want to be. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone, and I would like to introduce myself as Monique Wallace. I am a senior here at Winton Woods High School, and as a senior, I do plan to continue my education, music education, and vocal performance. at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee. Tonight, I'm just here to say thank you to all the board members and all of you here to support the school district, and for all the schools here as well. This evening, I will be singing for you "Abord de l'eau" by Gabriel Fauré, and it's a French piece about springtime and blossoming flowers and memory rivers. That was absolutely amazing. Ms. Miller, you ready to cue me up for my song?
Absolutely.
All right,
Anytime.
okay.
I'm ready for you.
So you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Next board meeting.
We'll let them get some practice. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for that. That was
Absolutely.
beautiful.
I can bet you across the state, of course, this is National School Board Month for all board members, but I doubt if they had anyone sing such a lovely solo as you performed.
Yes.
So I'm sure the board recognizes you and appreciates you, and carry on with your great inspiration to be the great vocal performer in the future. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you again to our varsity ensemble individual, and thank you, Superintendent Smith, and congratulations again to all of the students who received the wonderful recognition tonight, and also to our wonderful community partner who was so gracious, the Kiwanis Club, Green Hills Forest Park Kiwanis Club, for donating such a large donation to our students so that they can continue to broaden their horizons by travel and learning in different environments. We really appreciate that. Also, as Mr. Smith stated, we will have that recognition on Thursday, January the 30th at 6 p.m. It's going to be here at the high school in the cafeteria. All of the board members have been invited to attend that as well. So I'm looking forward to a really great crowd being there. I also would like to thank everyone who appreciated us today. I didn't get to read all of our cards, but we get so many lovely cards from the elementary school and from the various students, and also from the administrators and the principals. They appreciate us, but I also want you to know that we appreciate you too. So we want you to know we appreciate you just as much as you appreciate us. So thank you, and with that said, we'll now go into a 5-minute recess. We now resume our regular board meeting, and the next item on the agenda is 4.01, public comments. And I don't have any sheets for public comment, so we'll move right on to 5.01, which is the Winton Woods Teachers Association representative. And I do not think that we have a representative here tonight. So the next item is for the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, and our representative is taking the podium now. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Smith. OC would just like to say Happy New Year. We're wishing for a happy, safe New Year for everyone. We also would like to welcome new board member, Mr. McGowan. And again, we just want to say Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 6.01.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan's?
Aye.
Mrs. Douglas?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 7.01, which is the Treasurer's Report for financial statements for December 2019. Mr. Seymour, you have the floor.
Yes, for the first 6 months of the current year, on revenues in the general fund, we had 24.6 million with year-to-date revenues. For the month, we had 1.9, which was mostly our state foundation. On our expenditures, we're running year-to-date at around 25.6 million, roughly 46% of our budget halfway through the year. So currently, we're running a little under 5% under our current budget. For all funds, we had ending unencumbered balance of 72 million, 17 in the general fund, 7.6 in our building fund, and 42 million in our classroom facilities. And that's basically a summary. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
Board, are there any questions or discussion for Mr. Seymour? Seeing none, with no objections heard, we'll let the financial statements for the month of December 2019 be submitted for audit. The next item on the agenda is 8.01, the Treasurer's recommendations for investments for December 2019.
Yes, for the month of December, we had 72.3 million invested. We earned $172,000 in interest, of which $13,000 was the general fund, and our building funds, $159,000.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Board, a motion would be in order.
I make a motion to accept the investment report.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Sure. Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan's?
Aye.
Mrs. Douglas?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 9.01, which is the reports of the superintendent. So for the school reports, Mr. Smith, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President and Board, if you notice, we've put these in a order that's easier for you to read, so you can see all the reports collectively together. And if you've never had the opportunity, I'm going to move further down into February 3rd. One of the things that parents have told us over and over, our students struggle a little bit more in math than we would like them to. So if you notice the Winton Woods Intermediate School, there's a math counts at 3:10 to 4:30. And there is a big athletic signing day on February 5th. And then the Winton Woods Primary North iSpace first grade, 10 o'clock to 12. And then there's a great celebration. It's a Jazz and Joe, Princeton High School, where they get a chance to have a jazz concert collectively with other students from other districts. So that's a great opportunity. February 6th, parents have, when we were talking in the beginning about constructing the buildings, one of the things that the parents wanted more so than anything else, they wanted a separate entrance for middle school. And we have actually been able to accomplish that. But in addition to the physical part of it, there has to be a transition opportunity. So it would be really nice if if a member or two could come and see the 8th grade transition visit to high school, so you can hear about all the special opportunities, not just the academics, but the athletic opportunities as well, to hear how kids are being inducted into being part of a high school experience. Of course, there's a parent-teacher conference that same day, and then on the 7th, they actually repeat it because there were actually too many 8th graders to come all at one time. Further down, you will notice on February 11th, College Career and Transitioning Fair, parent-teacher conferences for the high school, 5 to 8:30. And then I'm going to wrap it up by talking about the conversation with the principal at Primary North and the IS Garden Club. So there are a host of different things that are happening, and it would really be nice if every now and then if a board member could come to those activities just to let the kids know that, you know, you read it, you participated in it, and, you know, get yourself on a big picture, maybe on a billboard or something on I-75. You never know what might happen. So, thank you. Those are the reports.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for the invitation once again to participate in those activities. And board, as you look at those dates, if you're able to attend, it would be nice. The next item on the agenda is 9.02, the facilities update. And Mr. Smith, along with Mr. Denny, our Executive Director of Business and Affairs, you have the floor.
The buildings are actually shaping up. They actually mean something now. They're starting to look and take shape, like you can understand where this room is, as opposed to steel beams and
Once the walls went up, it started looking like something.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So I'm pleased to report that the buildings continue to be on schedule and on budget, which is exciting. And as Mr. Smith pointed out, they are very much representing form now. You can really get an idea of what you're looking at. And just by way of reminder for folks that might be tuning in at home later or that might be watching this evening, I'll just run through where you can get updates every week on the progress of the buildings. Just part of the communication that we want to be sure as good stewards we're doing for the residents of our district and the businesses and all of our partners. So if you'd be kind enough to scroll down, this is just our Winton Woods website, as you know. In the lower right-hand corner, it says construction updates, new tech campuses. And you can click that and find a variety of information dating all the way back to school visioning and design visioning and facility master planning and all of that type of information. But you can also get weekly updates to let you know what's going on with each of our 2 projects and what happened that week and what's coming up. So again, you can really start to call things out. I'll just share briefly what you might be looking at either here on the slide or on the handout in front of you. This is a view of the K6, and you can actually see the main entry start to form. If you see that awning sort of ramping up, that is the future design of the main entry. So they are making great progress. Just to the right of that is the office, and the steel is going up there. The next photo over is actually inside the what we call the open gym. That's a gymatorium, essentially, and that's looking off to the side. The stage would be to the right. And then the bottom area is a view of one of many collections of 3 small group classrooms that are hosted in every small learning community in the building. There are 12 small learning communities in that building, and these are intended to help students rehearse projects, practice presentations, work together, get extra time, get extra help, get intervention if they need it, ESL instruction, special education support, those types of things. So that's sort of the heart of the learning community is right there. On to the 712. You can see the top left picture. That is in the scene shop, which is where we hope one day students will be building sets and scenes and props for the plays and the productions, the theater productions, along with other academic supports that might be related. But that's looking up. And then to the right, you can see that is just outside the arena at the 712, where our student athletes in high school will be performing and playing. And then at the bottom, you can see that is a view from Central Drive of the 712. And what you're seeing is plastic sheeting there so they can continue to work even though it's cold out. You need a certain temperature to be able to set brick and have mortar set up like it needs to, and the adhesives work the way they should. But they'll accomplish that by use of that plastic sheeting. So if you see that, that's what's happening there. So I'm thrilled to see the progress that's being made, and thanks for the opportunity to share it.
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to make sure that we did consistently, there's no reason for the community to have to reach out to us to ask for updates. I think we should be doing those on a regular basis. They supported the bond. They were very, very generous. And so these monthly updates are part of our regular process. And I think Mr. Denny's done a great job representing us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denny and Mr. Smith. I would just like to say that whenever it's appropriate, I don't think it's the right time yet, I'd like for the board to be able to take a walk through with our hard hats. Remember, we got hard hats at the beginning? So we want to use those hard hats, but we don't want to use them when things are still, in the wrong stage, but at the right stage. Wouldn't you all like to see it before everything goes up?
Yeah, you guys actually did a great walkthrough of another school that I think you gave some great feedback of what should happen with the school, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I think we should get a walkthrough. But before everything goes up and it's like perfect, and then we can kind of compare like with our own eyes, so I think that's good. Again, this is an informational update, and we do appreciate you doing this for the board as well as for the community, because it keeps us informed of what's going on. The next item on the agenda is 10.01. which, personnel schedules. And I don't know where my paper went, but anyway, personnel schedules, and board, a motion would be in order.
To introduce first.
Madam President, I'd like to make...
First, wait a minute, before we do that, can Mr. Smith have the floor?
Yep.
Thank you, sorry, Mr. Smith.
So the recommendations to approve the personnel schedules, Schedule A, resignations, Schedule B, personnel employment certificated. Schedule C, personnel employment support staff. Schedule D, personnel employment certificated and uncertificated, including extra duties. And Schedule E, finally, leaves.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Board, a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
I'll second.
Figure out who that went
Is that
to.
Mr. Birdie?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Bird.
Mr. Bird. All right, thank you. It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions for discussion? I just wanted to ask one question, just for clarification, Mr. Smith. I did notice on the schedule that there was a number of women's sports, girls' sports, that were, there were people who were resigning or transitioning. Can you give us some feedback on that?
Ms. Wilson?
Yes, well, the women's program is alive and well, so don't despair despite the personnel schedules. One coach, the girls cheerleading coach, actually has some family commitments that prevent her from carrying on. However, I spoke to the athletic director, David Lumpkin, and he assured me that the freshman coach and the varsity assistant coaches, along with head coach Tanisha Bennett, will manage the last 6 games. They practice together anyways. They have 60 girls that they'll care for and continue to coach, but they will practice together, and they have 6 games, and they'll cover for each other. With respect to basketball, Mike Walker, they have 8 games left, and he will work with his 2 varsity assistants and the freshman coach to cover those last few games. That coach actually had a baby, or her partner had a baby, and so she has to take a little bit of time off from coaching. And then with respect to track, we have a posting out, and we are looking for someone, and we will have a recommendation to the board at the February board meeting. But we have, in the meantime, they're doing conditioning, and the boys coach is covering
all of the practices, and they practice together as well.
Okay.
So, but we will have someone in place shortly. You have any other questions?
I have one other question if no one else does. One other question. I noticed that Rosalind Davis was on Schedule A as a resignation, and then she is on Schedule D as, on the payment. Can you explain what that was?
Yes, so as you know, the treasurer cannot pay anyone that is not credentialed. And so she began volunteering back in October as she pursued her credential. And that's not a quick process. You have to take a number of courses. There's cardiac arrest, concussion protocol. There's a number of courses, and it takes a while. So until she actually had her credential, she was not being paid. Well, in the meantime, she decided to resign, but we had to retroactively pay her for the service that we had for her until she got her, once she got her credential. She is fully credentialed now.
Okay.
It's retroactive back to July 1st, 2019. And so that's the basis in which the treasurer can pay her for her service.
Okay. And you probably answered this, but, or maybe you didn't, with the cheer coach, Ms. Tiffany Love, we have an awful lot of cheerleaders. So
Yes.
how many cheerleaders do we have?
We have 60 plus cheerleaders
Okay.
on varsity, and that doesn't include JV. So that's at an all-time high.
Yes.
Tanisha Bennett is doing a phenomenal job with our
She's gonna be able to
cheerleaders.
handle all that.
Yeah, and her goal for those cheerleaders, it's funny, she keeps saying she wants them to have a collegiate presence. She cheered in college, and that's her goal. And I think some of the feedback from people that have seen her that have also cheered in college is that they look very professional and collegiate.
Good,
So,
good. All right, well, thank you so much for
you're welcome.
clearing that up for me. All right, board, I guess I was the only one that had questions, but if there are no other questions, which I probably did not, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Mr. Birdie? Aye. Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowans?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 10.02, which is the proposal for overnight extended student trip for the Winton Woods Intermediate School 5th grade to Camp Campbellgard in Hamilton, Ohio for May the 18th through the 20th for 2020. Mr. Smith, would you like to give us some more information on that?
Yeah, one of the major pieces to this experience is students will be creating real-life experience that will help them learn about Ohio's history, Native Americans, fossil animals, and plants around them. And this is actually part of the Ohio State standards. So it's not just a fluff experience. It actually is related to their coursework so that they can do well on their math experiences or any other standardized tests they may take. They also have presentations in relation to the ecosystem and cycles of matter and energy. So these are things that it gives kids a little chance to get out there and be part of nature, because in many cases our students are kind of trapped into this world of video games, and getting out there to enjoy nature is not one of their attributes. So we kind of forced them to get out there and be part of the experience a little bit. So it happens.
Yeah, that's good.
So the recommendation, Dr. Johnson and board, is to approve the proposal for the overnight extended student trip, Winton Woods Intermediate School, grade 5 to Camp Campbellgard, Hamilton, Ohio, May 18th to the 20th. And there's a little girl by the name of Kyra Smith who keeps asking me, am I going on that trip? And I told her the board says that I am restricted at this point, so I'm not allowed to go and enjoy nature. So she has to hold on.
She'll have to wait. You'll have to do another trip another time.
Yeah, sort of like I'd go like Disney or something like that, but not quite Camp Campbellgard.
25 minutes away.
Okay, board, motion would be in order.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for overnight extended student trip, Winton Woods Intermediate School, 5th grade, to Camp Campbellgard, Hamilton, Ohio, on May 18th to the 20th, 2020, as presented.
Second?
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion around this? Yes, go ahead.
I would just like to comment that this is an outstanding educational opportunity for our students, probably one that's very, very hard to replicate, and I am greatly in favor of this.
Thank you, Dr. Kubiletti. Anyone else? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Kupiletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 10.03, which is the resolution authorizing the 2020 through 2021 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Mr. Smith, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President. I know that Ms. Ruggles touted herself as being an incredible athlete in the state of New York, so I would like to pass on to her to read the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Mr. Birdie. Whereas, Board of Education Governing Board Resolution authorizing 2020-2021 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Whereas Winton Woods City Schools District IRN number 044081 of 825 Waycross Road, Suite A, Cincinnati, Ohio 45240, Hamilton, Ohio, has satisfied all the requirements for membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association, a voluntary unincorporated association not for profit, and whereas the Board of Education Governing Board and its administration's desire for the schools with one or more grades at the 7 through 12 grade level under their jurisdiction be voluntary memberships of the OHSAA. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education Governing Board that all schools listed on the reverse side of this card do hereby voluntarily renew membership in the OHSAA, and that in doing so, the Constitution, bylaws, regulations, and business rules of the OHSAA are hereby adopted by this board as and for its own minimum student-athlete eligibility requirements. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the board reserves the right to raise student-athlete eligibility standards as it deems appropriate for the schools and the students under its jurisdiction. And be it further resolved that the schools under the board's jurisdictions agree to conduct their athletics program in accordance with the Constitution, bylaws, regulations, business rules, interpretations, and decisions of the OHSAA, and cooperate fully and timely with the Executive Director's Office of the OHSAA in all matters related to the interscholastic athletic programs of the schools. Furthermore, the schools under this board's jurisdiction shall be the primary enforcers of the OHSAA, Constitution, bylaws, regulation, business rules, and the interpretations and rulings rendered by the Executive Director's Office. The administrative heads of these schools understand that failure to discharge the duty of primary enforcement may result in fines, removals from tournaments, suspensions from membership, and or such penalties as prescribed in bylaw 11. That's it.
Yes.
That's enough.
And the date of the resolution?
The date of the resolution is January 27th, 2020. There's a typo right
Yeah, we
there.
do
You
see
got
a
it?
typo in there. We'll get that fixed.
Correct.
Oh, wait, do I need to read schools?
And board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing 2020-2021 membership in Ohio High School Athletic Association as presented.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions for discussion?
Yes, Madam President. The section where it speaks about the last sentence in the now therefore let it be resolved, that is actually one of the most important parts of this resolution. where it gives the board the right to raise the student athlete eligibility standards as it deems appropriate for the schools and students under its jurisdiction. I think in some districts, people assume that the 1.0 that's suggested by the state is the bare minimum, and the board has the ability to raise the standards in order to make sure that kids are meeting them at an accelerated rate. So the 2.5 is the minimum for Winton Woods City Schools.
I'd like to just say I'm very proud of this leadership's decision to raise the GPA to a 2.5 for years. We had gone off of that 1.0.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that was very disrespectful to the students and the families in our district. I think a 2.5 is more respectful and indicative of what it is, how we feel about our students' ability to achieve. So thank you to the board and to Mr. Smith and his team for taking on that initiative to raise the GPA. And seeing that it has risen, some of the fears that students wouldn't rise to the occasion was not realized. They raised their GPAs, or they met the 2.5, if not exceeded the 2.5. So kudos to the vision on that.
I know earlier Ms. Wilson came up and spoke about the 60 cheerleaders. That means 60 cheerleaders with strong GPAs and the ability to think about a collegiate experience. So not only do we have 60, which is almost like an arsenal coming into a game, but those young ladies are academically sound. So that's what we want.
Coupled with, having that minimum of a 2.5 plus all of the work that's going into the academics and raising ACT scores,
Absolutely.
It only positions our students better for opportunities at the collegiate level.
Yep.
And just to add to that, it also reminds us that they are students first and athletes second. And also, when you have that GPA and students participating in sports, it's a twofer, if you will. They're getting themselves positioned for a higher academic goal, if that's what their goal is. And then two, they're also taking care of their gym credit. Remember, we passed that if you take the waiver, they could take the waiver. So that means 60 plus young ladies are going to have their gym credit if they fulfill the whole,
the 2 years, 2 years
Yeah.
consecutive, and in order to receive the waiver. I think the great part about that, the young people are not receiving the waiver so that they can take a fluff course. They're receiving the waiver so they can take a more aggressive course that prepares them for college and beyond. So, there we go.
Absolutely. So I think that was a really great decision for this board to have made, and for Superintendent Smith to be the spearhead for that. So thank you for that. So we have it's been motioned and seconded. Are there any other discussions on this issue? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 10.04, which is the second read of the revised board policies. And Mr. Smith, would you like to give us some more input before we make a motion on this?
Well, the major piece for this particular public piece was 5350, students with mental health and suicide prevention. Our kids come with a variety of needs, and I think it's very important for us to always address those issues as best we can, making sure that our counselors are prepared and making sure that our teachers are prepared. So some of the professional development pieces that the board approved last year were the professional development series would happen the week before school. Actually gives us a better process on being able to identify kids who may have needs, as opposed to doing the PD the latter part of the year. We want to be able to kind of do more prevention than interventions. So that one is actually a revision, but I think it's actually the heaviest weight on this particular second read.
Right. Okay, Board, I'll take a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the second read, new and revised policies as presented.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions for discussion? Yes, Dr. Kubiletti.
I would like to comment on 5350, student mental health and suicide prevention, and also 8462, which both expand our efforts in caring and preventing the kinds of problems that our students are going to be facing increasingly. And it shows to me that the district has really taken a strong stand to help our students, and I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kubiletti. Are there any other discussions surrounding these second reads? If not, then, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Kupiletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowans?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 11.01, which is the legislative reports. And since I am your legislative liaison, there's a couple of things I wanted to call to our attention. We've had so much discussion, and we've heard so much discussion around ed choice, and something came out from the legislative, in the legislative report about the ed choice program. And there are some lawmakers that are trying to say that the reason ed choice funding is a problem for school districts is because of safe harbor, which I don't believe that that is necessarily the truth. But they're saying they're going to make a decision by February the 1st, which means, you know, we need to kind of keep our eyes open. The former lawmaker, Steve Dwyer, he did stand on the principle that the calculated annual increase in funding diverted from schools via the voucher program was at $47 million in the 2019-2020 school year so far. Now, I don't know how they calculated that or how they got that number, but it is in the legislative report. There are two issues, though, that have been that have arisen around this. Is that one, the potential of the growing number of schools where the students will qualify, because there's just an enormous amount. There's so many school districts, but every school district has a school that's listed under it, and there's a set of criteria that they have published to if a school had an A or a B, and then they had a C, and you know, so there's a set of criteria that they're going by. That was the one issue, and the cost to the local school districts with moving that money from the local school districts. So we have to keep our eyes open for that, because that could become, you know, something that could affect our district greatly. So because our schools are on there. The other thing that I wanted to call our attention to, we do have something coming up on the ballot, and one of the things that we said that we wanted to make sure that it covered was security, and that was one of the things that the legislative report talked about was security and the special training that's going to be required for people who are working in security. And this training is going to be required for all public safety people who are going to be working in the schools from grades 6 through 12. And they have a special threat assessment team that's going to do this training, and that everybody must complete this special training. And so we have to keep our eyes on that, because that means that's going to be an increased cost for our district. And with our new schools and the square footage, we're going to probably have to increase our security. And now, knowing that we're increasing, we want them to be fully trained, and we want them to be trained according to what the Ohio Department of Education feels that the training is necessary. So I think that that it's in the view of the legislative folks, then it also should interest us as well. There was one other thing about bus safety, and I mentioned this once before about people not stopping where when they put out the little hand and the blinking lights, and they were talking about putting cameras on the outside of the bus. That's still up for discussion, and they're not saying where that money is going to come from. So as a district, we have to keep looking at those things and not let them just slide by, and then all of a sudden we need, all of this money to cover those things. So it is going up. It is going to be referred. It's already considered a crime to do that, but we've all seen, people go around. I was behind a bus the other day, and I must have seen 5 cars in both directions go around the bus, and I thought, really? If that was your kid on the bus, would you really do that? So I'm not saying that it's not necessary. I'm just saying, where's the money going to come from to pay for it? So we just need to keep
in addition to that, Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
you mentioned the school safety. There's one part that concerns me, which is House Bill 123, where one of the bulleted points says it will allow parents to opt their children out of trainings mandated by the bill. So we are going to talk about training for students about safety, and some of these mandates are saying that the students will have the option to say, I don't want to be part of the training that will help me be safe and secure. That's a concern.
Right.
Yeah, they would have to.
Right.
Yeah.
And also part of the training is going to be, suicide awareness and prevention and like that as part of the security training. It's going to include that too. So with that being an issue, I just don't see why anybody would say, I want to opt my kid out of being safer, or even being able to identify when something is unsafe. Sometimes, they might not realize when they're in an unsafe.
Yeah, because you're working with hundreds of children, and you're hoping that they can remember the safety pieces that you put in place, and trying to train me while the event is taking place could be overwhelming.
Right, exactly.
For the teacher I have the training, but this is a real moment, right?
Exactly. So that's all I have for the legislative report. I just think that those are the things that as a board we need to kind of keep in our mind, keep that, turning in your mind. So.
But Ed Choice will be fixed by February 1st.
Well, that's what
2020.
they said.
That's right.
Which is this Saturday.
It's coming up.
Anyway. Excuse me. Okay, that's it for the legislative report. The next item on the agenda is 11.02, the Great Oaks Career.
I'll take it from here.
Thank you.
The Great Oaks
Because
Career
I am
Technical
choking.
Report. We did a lot of things that we actually did on our last organizational meeting, which was elect the president and elect the vice president, which was Terry Gibson, who was the former president. It'll be his second year, and then Bill Ferguson will have his second year as the vice president for the Great Oaks School Board. We have 2 students who are recognized in the student spotlight. Aaron Jenkins, who is an auto mechanic at Scarlet Oaks in that program, and he's got a job at Performance Honda. And we have Zyriasia Lady Johnson, who is in the early childhood education program at Scarlet Oaks, who is recognized as Scarlet Oaks Student of the Quarter. So,
excellent.
And then I gave you some legislative updates on the career tech side of things as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. Let's see. The next item on the agenda is board motions and recommendations. Are there any things that we need to discuss at this time? I don't have anything. So that was 12.01. The next item on the agenda is 1301, which is comments from the Board of Education. And we can start with you, Mr. Seymour. You have anything?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith?
Congratulations tonight.
Yes, Madam President, the executive team took a field trip to the Georgetown Toyota plant. And we actually had a chance to meet the engineers and have some open conversations. That plant, the people, the engineers actually had an opportunity to come and visit the high school to see project-based learning, and they said this is exactly the way we train our people. So they are interested in our kids being part of this conversation. The work there is absolutely amazing. And there's an educational component that goes along with it. So stay tuned. Hopefully we will be able to kind of tie it up by the time we get to the spring or summer, so that our kids can actually be able to participate in the activity.
So are they going to come to us, or are we going to go to them?
It's mutually agreed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because the plant is in Georgetown.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
kind of a long. Right. That's a long
Can't take an
trip.
Uber there, but I guess you could. But Doc, I'm telling you, the experience was absolutely wonderful. And so we wanted to see it first, because I'm really not good at selling things to our children that we can't endorse.
Right.
And so the next part of it, we are going to take a group of young people so they can see how this operation works, and maybe this is something they could be part of in the future.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birdie?
Just a couple of things. The Performing Arts Talent Show on February 9th here at the high school. Please try to come. I think you'll enjoy it.
Are you judging this year, sir?
I am not judging this year, at least not that I know of. Night of Freedom, mark that on your calendars. That's coming up March 19th. I think someone else will probably talk about that too. I will be at Donuts with Dads at Primary North on the 14th of February with my grandson. So I'm looking forward to that.
Put that down.
And I'm done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Birdie. Mr. McGowan's?
Still trying to get my feet under me and understand when I can talk and when I can say all that good stuff. But I did want to say something about the minimum requirements of the student athletes. As most of the people on the board know, in my other life, I coach baseball at the Reds Youth Academy, and one of the things we do is we do monitor the kids' grades. They have to have a certain minimum standard to go on trips and things like that we send them on. And one of the things we talk about the kids is that if you have the talent and you have the grades, we'll find you a college to play baseball in. And one of the things I teach to the kids, and I'm always harping on, is that if you've got between a 4.0 and 3.5, there's a certain percentage that we can get you a scholarship. If you're a 3.0 to 3.5, it goes down a little bit. And once you get to under a 2.5, it drops down drastically. And just kudos to this board making that decision to make the minimum a 2.5. Because if you don't have a 2.5, you can't play on my team anyway. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out there, that I'm extremely proud and happy to be a part of a board that made a decision like that.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan. Dr. Cupoletti?
I have no comments.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Ruggles?
I only have one comment, and that is to welcome Mr. McGowan to this wonderful board. I think you will add a lot of value with your experience to help round us out as a board. So welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruggles. I just have a couple of things. The OSBA Urban Network is coming up. I guess you've got that information. And they're going to be discussing the state report card again. That's going to be the hot topic. And that's February the 19th in Columbus. The other thing that I had is the Winton Woods Educational Foundation. They're having a fundraiser at Grand Finale. And they do take reservations, but the Winton Woods Educational Foundation, they support a lot of the things that we do here in this district. And they do give away quite a few scholarships and help out in various ways. And that is going to be on February the the 21st, Friday from 5 p.m. to close, and a percentage of the donation of the food gets donated to the foundation. So I want you to think about supporting that. Also, it's been mentioned earlier, the Community Spirit Award Showcase Appreciation Dinner coming up this coming Thursday, January the 30th, and is from 6 to 7:30 here in the high school cafeteria. And if you've not seen how they transform our cafeteria, it's quite nice. You forget that you're sitting in the middle of the high school cafeteria. So, board, if you can make it to that, it would be much appreciated to support. And we need to let Mrs. Denny know if we're planning on coming to that, because she'll do the seating and what have you for that. Also, I think it's already been mentioned, the athletic signing on February the 5th. And the 8th grade transition. Those were two things that I had written here to be sure to mention. The 8th grade transition to 6 on February the 6th. So those are all the things that I had written there for observations. The next item on the agenda is 1401, which is to motion to go into executive session. And board, I do believe there is a need to go into executive session tonight. So I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for a pending legal matter.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Mr. Seymour, would you call that vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Kupaletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowans?
Aye.
Mrs. Douglas?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. Now, we'll now go into a closed session, and thank you, Waycross community, for your service in videotaping our meeting tonight. We will not come out of executive session and make any further action. So with that said, I'd like to call the meeting of the Winton Woods City School Board of Education meeting for Monday, January the 27th, 2020 adjourned. Thank you, stay safe, warm, and have a good evening.
Thank you.